Welcome to the Duck Dive. Today, we're really getting into Richard Stark's Breakout. It's this, well, thrilling and pretty gritty journey, isn't it? Right into the mind of the master criminal, Parker. You've showed a fascinating stack of material with us, and it really shows how, complex these stories can get, interconnected, even in just one book. Our mission today, unpack this whole thing, the escape, the unexpected team-ups, and just the sheer nerve of this guy Parker wanting to be free.
Yeah, and what's really compelling, I think, about this deep dive is that it's more than just, a fast plot. It gives you this raw look at human nature when the pressure's on. Like every choice is huge, high stakes, and the lines between right and wrong, they get really blurry. This book, honestly, it's a masterclass in tension, resourcefulness, a shortcut, really, to understanding how a high stakes breakout works and how you adapt when it all goes wrong.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The story starts, Parker's in a major jam. He's ended up in Stonevelt Prison. What was it? A warehouse job that went bad. Yeah, a partner named Brule panicked, tried to run, and then boom, sirens in the dark. So what was the situation actually like inside Stonevelt?
Well, digging into that, Stoneveld is painted as uh, overcrowded, transient. They call it a bus depot. Paranoia is just thick in the air because rats, informants could be
Yeah.
anywhere. Trust, zero. And this environment, it immediately makes Parker challenge his big rule, never work with partners. Plus, he's using the name Ronald Casper. And that name, it's already linked to another prison escape, a guard's death out in California. So his situation is, well, uniquely dicey right from the get-go.
Right, so he sounds totally isolated, facing extradition to somewhere even worse. But he's not alone for long, is he? It seems like outside connections are just vital here. You see him sizing up his court-appointed lawyer, Jacob Sherman, then using him cleverly to get a message to Claire Willis. And she brings in this very smooth guy, Mr. Lynn.
Exactly. And putting that into the bigger picture, Liz showing up, that changes everything for Parker immediately. He's the first bit of real outside help. You can actually freeze Parker's legal mess, basically tell California, hold on, you got to wait.
Mm.
But it's through Liv that another key connection happens. Ed Mackey, Parker's former brother-in-law, which, by the way, is just a cover. Mackey turns out to be this incredibly valuable ally.
Yeah.
Feels like he owes Parker big time. Thinks Parker saved his life way back. Something about a guy named George Liss.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Parker, using Mackie, starts checking out potential partners inside the prison. He needs a team, right? So you see these calculated interactions with Brandon Williams and Tom Marcantoni. Two guys facing serious time. And there are these initial hangups like Marcantoni's, well, frankly, disturbing comment about Roop loyalty and working with Williams, who's black, saying he'd trade him for chewing gum. Yeah. But Parker's desperate and he's shrewd. He calls Marcantoni out on it, basically says, he's not afraid to stand with you, so if you're afraid to stand with him, I gotta find someone else, and that brings them together.
Which leads to this huge problem. How do you plan an escape from this supposedly impregnable slammer when you're watched constantly?
Mm.
Parker's reconnaissance inside, it's meticulous. Absolutely. They check out the weaknesses, the kitchen exits, no good, sealed tight, trucks back right up to the door. But then they find the library's kind of hidden side door, leads to the guards hall, the parking lot, and here's where you get these surprising insights, right? Even super secure places often have these overlooked weak spots. It's a principle you see everywhere, not just prisons.
Yeah, but every plan needs a wild card, or maybe has a wild card. For Parker, it's Walter Jelinek, the
Yeah.
prison rat. He figures something's up, threatens them, wants to be on that bus out. Parker's reaction is just ice cold. He delays dealing with Jelinek, says, if he dies now, it points right at us. They have to wait for the right moment. So the escape itself, it's pure high-octane stuff. Parker, Williams, Marcantoni, they pull it off on a Thursday evening. They just turn the prison's own routine inside out. And the way they deal with Jelinek, casual, brutal, make it look like an accident, snap his neck. But that's just the start.
Oh, the audacity there is incredible, just stunning. They take out this volunteer lawyer,
Mm.
headbutt, and then this really creative threat about organ donation. Williams tells the groggy guy, it's the most, man, that you want to be an organ donor. But not today, Jim. It's darkly funny, almost. Then they rig a phone call, trick guards into helping them carry out heavy cartons of law books. They use makeshift weapons, a lamp base, a file box. Parker's in bad clothes, Williams and Marcantoni are in stolen guard uniforms, and they just walk out. Right through the route Inspector Turley showed Parker earlier. It's brilliant misdirection, not just force.
Okay, so they're outside. The immediate getaway. It involves a corrections van, this tricky drive through the woods, and then sinking the van in a lake. Dramatic. But, escaping is just the start of their problems. Marcantoni has this better thing he wants to do, a jewelry heist. from an armory building downtown, this wholesale place, supposed to be like a fortress because of its old thick walls.
Yeah, and if you look at the bigger picture here, you see all this chaos converging from different angles. It's not just Parker's crew. While they're planning the heist, you've got Brandon Williams' sister, Mary Ann. She gets contacted by the street dealer, Goody, who wants the reward money on Brandon. Then there's Brenda, Mackey's lady. She's casing a dance studio in the Armory building. And the Armory co-owner, Henry Friedman, he's having an affair with the dance studio owner, Darlene Johnson Ross. And she notices Brenda, gets suspicious.
Wow.
Right. And meanwhile, Detective Rembeck from CID, Criminal Investigation Division, he's putting the escape pieces together. He flags Parker as the wild card, slaps wiretaps on family members like Mary Ann. The whole thing just shows Parker's world is this tangled web, vulnerabilities and opportunities everywhere.
So the jewelry heist itself, super audacious. They break into the library next door, use file drawers as like makeshift shovels to clear this collapsed tunnel under the street, start emptying display cases into plastic bags, but then bam, disaster. The tunnel collapses catastrophically, buries Marcantoni, Angioni, Kolaski, just like that. Parker, Williams, Mackey barely get out, leave the jewels, half the crew behind. Parker's just disgusted, takes off his belt, lets the bags of jewelry drop, basically says, what do we do with it? The guys who knew who to call are under the dirt.
And that really forces the question, right? What happens when your perfect plan just completely implodes? So now Parker, Williams, Mackey, they're on the run, no score, pressure's immense, and the outside forces are closing in. Goody, the dealer, he makes this desperate move for the reward on Williams, leads to this tense showdown with his boss, Buck, a shootout. Parker's crew barely survives that. But it really shows Parker's adaptability, doesn't it? He doesn't just react, he pivots. Brutally efficient.
And the stakes just shoot up immediately. There's a new crisis, and this one's personal. Brenda, Mackey's lady, she's been arrested. Turns out Darlene Johnson Ross, the dance studio owner, she turned Brenda in, accused her of casing the armory, using a fake ID, giving a fake name. And the police, naturally, they leap to the conclusion that Brenda must be the brains of the gang.
Yeah, and what's really revealing is the legal side of it. Jonathan Lee, Parker's lawyer, he lays it out. Brenda's being held mostly because the cops can't ID her. And they're pressuring Darlene to sign a false complaint just to keep holding her. Lee, who's, a master at this legal stuff, also gives this stark warning: any unfortunate accident involving Darlene, it points straight back to Brenda. So Parker and Mackey have these two options, basically. A brute force breakout for Brenda, brands her a criminal forever, gets her prints on file, or a more delicate psychological play against Darlene, get her released clean.
They go for the second option, the psychological one. So then you see Parker, Mackey, and Williams meticulously planning how to confront Darlene Johnson Ross. It involves swapping cars at the airport, ditching their known red Saab for a rental to avoid being spotted, and then forcing their way into Darlene's suburban house like super early in the morning. And here's the twist, the really interesting bit. They find Darlene in bed, but she's not alone. She's with Henry Friedman, the guy whose jewelry they just tried to steal. And he is terrified his wife, Muriel, will find out.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, it's just a brilliant bit of psychological maneuvering. Absolutely brilliant. Mackey uses Henry's affair, the threat of exposure, potential criminal charges, things like alienation of affection, even old blue laws against adultery. Maybe not often used, but still carry stigma, legal weight. He uses all that to pressure Darlene. He kind of frames Brenda's innocence against Darlene's own actions, making a false complaint. Makes Darlene see she's the one in a really bad spot, legally and personally. The goal is simple. Get Darlene to call the cops. Take back her statement. Let Brenda walk free, no strings attached. It's not just clever. It shows how understanding someone's personal weak spots can be way more powerful than just, violence.
Right. And the tension just keeps building. Darlene makes the call, retracts her statement, but the police respond immediately, send 2 officers to check things out, which forces Parker and Mackey to hide Henry and themselves inside the house while the cops search. You get these close calls as the police sweep through, then they make a hasty exit, but not before Parker makes sure Henry will keep quiet. Shows this weird, almost grim kind of respect, even for an enemy.
Yeah, Mackey even notes, it's hard to go with the bullet in the head once a guy's made you lunch. It's that kind of pragmatism.
The escape just keeps going, relentless pace. Parker and Mackey barely avoid getting caught at Darlene's. Then they switch focus back to Brenda. They track her taxi from the airport, realize she's being tailed. 2 unmarked police cars. But then things took this incredibly sharp turn. Parker, in this just audacious move, ditches their red Saab by driving it into a cargo hangar, and then somehow takes control of one of the pursuing cop cars. And guess who's driving? Inspector Turley himself.
Oh, that dynamic between Parker and Turley. It's just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Parker forces Turley to drive him, and they have this bizarre, kind of perverse game theory chat. Turley's talking about police procedure, locators in the cars, admitting he underestimated Mark and Tony because he didn't think he'd team up with a black man. It's revealing. And Parker's just in complete control. Even lets Turley keep his gun, supposedly to preserve his dignity. But it's manipulation, right? Keeps him compliant. It really makes you wonder, what does it say about law and order when the most dangerous guy can just turn the tools of justice into his own getaway car? It shows his deep vulnerability.
Yeah. So after forcing Turley to drop him off, Parker keeps going, and then you see his incredible adaptability again. He ditches the cop car and ends up hitching a ride with this unsuspecting but pretty sharp truck-driving couple, Marty and Gail. And they don't see him as a criminal. They just see, a guy needing a ride home, offer him a lift to Baltimore.
And if you connect that to the whole story, that final leg of the escape
Yeah.
really highlights the sheer range of people Parker interacts with.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You go from the brutal, pragmatic world of prison
Right.
to the calculated moves against enemies,
Mhm.
and then finally this unexpected quiet empathy from these truckers. They just see a guy needing a lift. They even help him avoid a police roadblock later, call the cops just boys doing their job. It's a surprisingly ordinary view of law enforcement, completely different from Parker's world.
And the journey ends, well, where a lot of Parker's stories seem to begin and end. With Claire, you see him arrive. He's got 3 Patek watches. That's it. The only loot from the whole jewelry job. Pretty meager haul. And there's this quiet reunion. Claire just knew he'd be back. And Parker just says, this time. Um, so there you have it. Our deep dive into Richard Stark's Breakout. For inside a prison cell to the open road, Parker's journey is just, well, a testament to sheer resourcefulness. And the unpredictable ways people connect, even when things are desperate. You saw the careful planning, the brutal execution when needed, the betrayals, and those surprising moments of loyalty, too.
Yeah, this deep dive, it really shows that true mastery for someone like Parker isn't just executing the plan perfectly. It's the ability, the profound ability to adapt when it all falls apart, to use every scrap of information, to just keep playing the long game, no matter the setbacks. And it leaves you with, I think, a pretty provocative thought. In a world where pretty much everyone has something to sell or maybe something to hide, how do you really know who you can trust? And what price are you actually willing to pay for your own freedom?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel a little more plugged into the story and maybe a bit more curious about all the surprising details hidden in these kinds of narratives. Until next time.